DINK couples in Venezuela. Is that a thing in the first place? Well, today we discuss.
Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
One of the topics du jour on social media, in TikTok, and actually on the financial world is the acronym DINK, that stands for Double Income No Kids. So basically, these are couples that usually have decent income, both of the participants on the couple, put it like that. Well, these particular people actually have decent income, especially discretionary income, and they decided that they don't want to have children in order to concentrate their particular discretionary income on themselves, on a frivolous lifestyle like traveling, fancy dining, shopping, and that kind of thing. And by the way, I don't judge anyone who consciously have this particular train of thought and make this particular decision. So no hate for me on that regard. Today we are going to discuss a little bit why this happens and if we have teen couples in Venezuela. First, let's discuss how these teen couples are get together on the first place, because this is something that on the financial world is not discussed, because the people in finance actually are very bad with psychology and mating and those kind of things. Meanwhile, the people that dedicate the most about psychology and evolutionary psychology and gender dynamics and that kind of thing are not necessarily the best people regarding financial. So since this platform, we get both things together, we are going to discuss why these teen couples happen on the first place. First, we have to discuss that usually when a couple gets together is thanks to this particular psychological trait that women have that is called hypergamy, that women want to mate with men over her own socio-economic status. So basically, the profile of a female that has, she's engaged on a teen couple, what happens is usually these particular females are hardworking women, so good on her. And also these particular women usually are college educated and have decent incomes, but usually it's not a very draconian job, high stress job, but it's just, let's say, a complex income enough in order to, have a decent income. On the other hand, you have that women, regardless if they are very well educated or have particular, hard skills that they can monetize. Also, women at the end of the day, biology, psychology has an influence. And these particular women usually they mingle, they couple only with men with superior socioeconomic status. However, also these women, you have to give credit that usually are more rational, analytic than an average female, put it like this. And what happens is usually they mingle with men that say they are lawyers, just for example, just for the sake of the conversation. They are lawyers, they are young lawyers, just entry-level lawyers, and usually mingle with lawyers that are a little bit more developed on the learning curve of being a lawyer and the career curve. So usually the lawyer that form the, let's say, the lawyer-teen couple, just for the sake of the conversation, usually this particular lawyer is a little bit older, also has more experience, has a better income, and that kind of thing, and they decide to, make a couple. And also what happens is something that regarding hypergamy, you see a lot, is that, for instance, in the United States, the average couple that you have, both married and long-term relationships, usually on these couples, the male counterpart makes 50% more on income compared to the female. Now, there are occasionally a couple where the female makes more, but that is statistically an anomaly rather than a norm. We also have to talk about social media. Right now, the social media influence a lot people, let's say, under 40 years old. But a bunch of people of over 40 years old have a lot of influence as well. However, under 40, especially under 30, what happens is that in social media, especially in platforms like Instagram, on TikTok, that we already discussed this on a previous video, but basically what happens is that you are bombarded with particular lifestyles that require fancy travel, fancy dining, and also fancy aesthetics. And what ends up happening is that women, I mean, people overall, especially women, they are very drawn to this particular lifestyle. However, since these particular women on the DINK couples are more, let's say, have better critical thinking abilities, usually instead of going with the easy route, if you catch my drift, what they decide is just to, mingle with someone, just a man, with a higher socioeconomic status, and they can build this particular Instagram lifestyle together. Now, let's go with Venezuela. We have 10 couples here in the country. Well, actually, we have, but they are very, very rare. And actually, after a certain time span, actually, they stop being a DINK and they start, procreating. Let's explain how a DINK couple forms in Venezuela. I explain a lot, of course. We explain about the beauty standards here in the country, and also that Venezuela probably has the most proportion of hot women, quote unquote, baddies, compared to most countries all over the world. What happens is that usually a baddie in all over the world, even in Latin America, usually a baddie is a model, a celebrity, an influencer, someone like that, that these particular females are usually have the hard skills, they don't have as much. The hard skills usually are soft skills, and the hard skills are usually, regarding communication and social media, something like that. You can paint the picture. And usually date millionaires and people like that. So, of course, you have in the rest of the world, basically most baddies usually are dating millionaires, something like that. In Venezuela, that also happens in Venezuela, by the way. And the spread is even greater than in the rest of the world. However, since we have a huge proportion of baddies, quote unquote, compared to the rest of the world, probably Colombia will be another outlier in that regard. Well, what happens is that you have a significant cohort of baddies that also have good hard skills. For instance, I met a bunch of baddies that are doctors, dentists, lawyers, accountants, business women, things like that. So what happens is that, I met a bunch of these females and also a bunch of these, DINK couples in Venezuela. What happens is that usually they either start dating someone from a very young age, let's say 19, 21, a baddie, and usually dating, let's say, a guy 21, 25, 26, maybe 30, something like that. So the age gap usually is not high. And these women, after, graduate from college and that kind of thing, and if they are successful, usually because they are baddies, they are going to have more opportunities compared to the average female. And they either get good jobs, the few good jobs that we can have in Venezuela. I always discuss that in Venezuela, we don't have good jobs as an employee. It's next to impossible to find one of those good jobs. However, sometimes it's good enough to be a good second income for the family. Something on the neighborhood of $1,000 per month, something like that. Meanwhile, the guy is the one making the money, usually making something around $2,000, $5,000 per month, something like that. It could be way greater, but still, quote unquote, a DINK couple. Anyways, what happens is on this particular, of course, usually the guy, depending, there is kind of a, a correlation. Usually, the more good looking the guy, the less money it makes. This is a correlation in Venezuela. Probably in the United States and other countries is different, something of that nature. But what happens is that men here in the country, they don't get the halo effect. So just for being, quote unquote, pretty, a man for being pretty is not going to have opportunities. Women will. And I know that, for instance, in the United States, the halo effect actually plays out. Usually the taller, the more good-looking men have better opportunities, maybe in tech, in finance, in business overall. Anyways, But in Venezuela, it doesn't happen like that. Actually, there is a negative correlation. I mean, the more sloppy the guy looks is actually the more successful, something like that. I mean, of course, there are exceptions, but please bear with me. At the end, what happens is that, and also I have to explain this, for instance, in healthcare, I have a bunch of experience with healthcare as a profession and healthcare on dating. So you're going to love this. What happens is there are a bunch of beautiful women on healthcare professions here in the country. I'm talking women that are baddies. I'm talking baddies on healthcare. However, since the healthcare professions are very, very stressful, they don't have as much opportunities to be, an Instagram thought compared to other women. So basically, they are capped down that particular thought traits, if I may, just for the sake of the conversation, of course. And also, they are baddies, but at the same time, they are successful doctors, successful surgeons, successful dentists, things like that. And usually, maybe mingle with another doctor, another dentist, something like that. And of course, they fell in love and that kind of thing. But also, they want, the cool lifestyle. And also, I explain a lot that status is very important here in Venezuela. And Venezuelans, regardless of their social class, they are spenders. They like to overspend on their particular lifestyles. Now, something that happens in Venezuelan DINK couples compared to the, let's say, American DINK couples is that eventually they end up having children. First, they extend the relationship a lot, on frugal lifestyle, traveling and dining out and those things. Maybe at some point on the relationship, they want something else and they get a puppy, something like that. I love dogs, so that's fine by me. However, at the end of the day, they end up having children, let's say 5 to 10 years afterwards. Now, the thing that I see here in Venezuela compared to other, let's say other societies all over the world, and when I'm doing the metaphor with the American society, is that they have children. And I met a bunch of teen couples that end up having children. For instance, I have one of my closest collaborators here on Venezuela Insider that she's a baddie. Probably a couple of you already work with her. She was on a teen couple. She's one of my collaborators here on Venezuela Insider. She's a baddie, a good friend, and both her and her husband and we are, we have, going out and mingle a lot. And they were a quote-unquote teen couple during a decade. They met very young, and my particular collaborator, she got married when she was 20, and her husband, he was 20, it's like just a couple of years ago, a very good-looking man, by the way, and also a successful man here for Venezuelan standards. And they were like a teen couple for like 10 years, something like that. They traveled all over the world, and fancy clothing, fancy dining. They're actually fancy people. And what happened is, at the end, just one day, decided to have children. And they had a couple of children, beautiful children. Actually, they have a beautiful family overall. But on the same token, they go out a lot, go to the beach, sometimes go to fancy. Of course, they have to, keep it down a notch. And also, first, you have the responsibility of providing for your kids, for your children, education, and all that kind of thing that you have to pay when you have children. But at the same token, still a cool lifestyle. And this is something that probably the difference that I will say right now, the difference between an American and Western European teen couple compared to the Venezuelan teen couples is that eventually the teen couples are going to start having children here in the country, but maintaining some sort of a resemblance of a teen couple lifestyle.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.